Hello there, students from Beehive School. This is teacher Krishna Ochoa, and this is the class for 8th BYS. So welcome. This will be the science class for week number 12. And the topic that we are going to study this week is lesson number 2, air pressure. You can find this topic in pages 78 to 83. So right before we start, we have to go over some instructions that you had followed already. So get your book, enter the Google Classroom, download the Word document and save it in your science folder. And then you have to name your document in the following way. The only difference here is that you need to include the number of week at the beginning. So in this case will be week number 12. Then you add your code, name, grade, and finally your section. So as we move, remember that it's very important to keep in mind that you have to take notes. It's always important to take notes so you can actually identify the most important information from this video and from the presentation. As well as it is very important to begin with the end in mind. So our end in mind for this week is students will be able to compare and contrast the difference between wet air and dry air. That is the first thing that you need to copy in your Word document. So make sure you have it with you. So we're going to start with the topic air pressure. So the first thing that you have to notice is that air has mass. So sometimes people forget about this because it is not possible for us to observe air with our naked eyes. So it's important to remember that even though we cannot see air, it is a substance that is always floating around. And of course, since it has matter, it will have a certain mass. Right, we have to define that it has density as well. And remember that density is the amount of mass in a given space. So if we talk about, let's say, the room where you are right now. So the amount of mass of air that is right in your room is the density that it has. Next, let's continue with pressure. Pressure is the force pushing on an area. So this is similar to what we analyzed before. We talked about water pressure. So the deeper you go, then the higher the pressure will be in water. And exactly the same thing happens with air. So the closest you are to the ground, the higher pressure you will have by air. All right. So here is one example of how air pressure is moving around your room. And this is something that we cannot directly see with our eyes, but it's something that is happening right now. And we have a very important tool to measure air pressure. That is the barometer. So the barometer is an instrument that is used to measure air pressure. So there are two types. There is one barometer that uses mercury and another one that is called an anaeroid barometer. So the results are reported in inches of mercury. At least that is in case of the mercury barometer. Alright, so here you have an example of what it looks like. And this is a mercury barometer. And what happens is that when it is exposed to a high pressure, you are going to notice that the pressure of air is going to push mercury down. So as it goes up, it means that there will be a higher pressure in air. But if you take a look at the barometer that is right next to it, you will find that whenever there is a lower air pressure, the mercury is not going to be pushed upwards, but it's going to be pushed downwards. So as you can notice, there is a difference. There is a higher pressure on your left and a lower air pressure on your right. And here we have the other type of manometer. So this one has a very sensitive arrow that is right in the middle, and it is very sensitive to air pressure. So if you apply a higher or a lower air pressure, you're going to notice that the arrow is going to move around. And of course, it's going to help you out to visualize what is the air pressure that is at the point where you are at. Now we have something very important to analyze. How does altitude affect air pressure and density? So the altitude is the elevation above the sea level. So, and I can give you one clear example in Quetzaltenango, and our altitude here is of 2,333 meters above the sea level, all right? But of course, there will be a different elevation and a different altitude if we move around. So, for example, if you start climbing up Santa Maria volcano, then you will be exposing yourself to a higher altitude while you go upwards, right? And air pressure and density decreases as altitude increases. So, let's talk about the Santa Maria volcano one more time. So, at the bottom of the volcano, there will be a higher pressure than if you are at the top, because at the top there will be a less amount of air that will be acting upon your body. So at the bottom, remember, a higher pressure, and at the top, a lower pressure, as well as a lower density. All right, so this was a pretty quick class since it was a very small topic. So now we're going to jump to our evaluation. So please read pages 78 to 83 and complement the summary that you already have. Well, almost all the information that is there was provided in this presentation, but make sure to complement it a little bit. Next, explain the way air pressure and density changes at a high altitude. So this is related to what I told you before about climbing up Santa Maria volcano. Next one, investigate what are the effects of low pressure and density in humans. That's something very interesting. And lastly, narrate a trip to the top of Santa Maria volcano. Investigate about the altitude of the volcano and explain how you will feel as you go from the bottom to the top of the volcano. Lastly, it's very important to add images. And at last, we're going to analyze our rubric. So please include an introduction and a conclusion to your document and to the report that I just mentioned in the last one. And please include meaningful information about the topic. That will be 2 points. Real examples from Guatemala related them to the volcano, about its altitude, and how you will feel when you are climbing it up. Order and general appearance of your report, 2 points. And lastly, your grammar, which is extremely important. That will be 2 more points. That will be the class and evaluation for this week. I hope you're all doing well at home. Please always stay safe and take care of yourself. And I really hope to see you soon. Goodbye, guys. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Goodbye.